people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It has been officially announced that Emma Dolan will be challenging reigning champion Irma Garcia for what is the IBF Super Flyweight title on the undercard of Dubois versus Harper in what is set to be MVP's debut in the UK market. They picked up some local talent for what is a world title fight. Emma Dolan, to my knowledge, has not yet been signed to MVP. This fight gives me the impression that this is a rehearsal for her, that if she wins this fight, she will in effect become one of MVP's Valkyries, sporting an unblemished record of 8 wins with no losses and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, 27 years old, to Irma Garcia. That is a very seasoned 44, 17 years older than young Emma Dolan. Sporting a professional record of 25 wins with 5 losses and 1 draw, only 5 recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 31 professional bouts, the noticeably more experienced fighter of the two, but at that age, there is such a thing as too much experience. Last in action, in June of last year, opposite the ring, Maria Sandoval, who Irma knocked out in the 6th round of a contest scheduled for 8. It was the only fight that she had that year, and the last 2 years, she's only been averaging 1 fight per year. 1 fight in 2024 against Gloria Gallardo, and the more recent fight last year against Maria Sandoval. So she hasn't been that active, and she's only getting older. To young Emma Dolan, who was on a similar schedule last year, she only fought once, back in April, against Lauren Parker, who she decisioned over 10 rounds. Before that, she decisioned a then unbeaten Shannon Ryan, and before that, she decisioned a then unbeaten Nicola Hopewell. Emma Dolan is one of the more talented UK boxers flying under the radar. If she wins this fight and gets signed to MVP, things will really start picking up. Noticeably tall for the weight, Emma Dolan is a long and limber fighter, an outboxer who knows how to use that height and length to box a fighter up. Use the ring, use the jab. Even though neither fighter is currently signed to MVP, you can give Emma Dolan home field advantage because the fight is happening on her side of the Atlantic Ocean. Slight edge due to being the much younger fighter of the two, the much fresher fighter of the two, and she will have home field advantage. Now what's interesting, like I said, neither Irma Garcia or Emma Dolan are currently signed to MVP, but you know who is? Ramla. A fighter who's not boxing in this show, a fighter called Ramla Ali. Remember her? She's supposed to be returning to action next weekend on the 14th against an opponent that has yet to be announced, and I find it interesting that MVP would be debuting in the UK, going as far as finding a spot on that card for 2 fighters they don't even have under contract, but one they do is boxing on somebody else's show. That if they knew they were going to do a show in the UK, why isn't Ramla on it? Begs certain questions. Is it that Ramla's contract with MVP is already up? Is she no longer with them? Or is it that she is, but who they offered her to fight ain't somebody she wanted to fight? Why is she not on this show? Remember when she made her MVP debut opposite the ring Brazil's own Lila Furtado? There is a legitimate argument that Ramla lost that fight. She should not have got the decision. Based on that, Ramla, who's not getting any younger, may be treading carefully, very picky about who she fights, and who they offered her might have been difficult, might have been dangerous. Maybe she turned it down, and based on that, she had to fight somewhere else. Back over to Emma Dolan and Irma Garcia. I'm already sort of leaning towards Emma to lift the IBF title from Irma, even though Irma's a lot more experienced. Time is on Emma Dolan's side, and the location matters. And Irma's already been beat 5 times before. That her getting beat again is not outside the realm of possibility. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, recording artist turned TV producer 50 Cent trolls Floyd Mayweather in Super Bowl commercial days after suing Showtime to recover nearly $340 million in misappropriated funds, and separately reportedly being sued himself for $330,000 in alleged unpaid rent for a luxury apartment in Manhattan. Mayweather finds himself in a renewed feud with former friend turned rival 50 Cent. The hip-hop artist starred in a Super Bowl commercial for DoorDash, trolling Mayweather for his alleged inability to read. In the clip, 50 Cent can be seen holding a Learning Your ABCs book. The video also shows 50 Cent, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, bringing the beef and taking equally not-so-subtle shots at rap rivals Sean Diddy Combs and Ja Rule. In the spot, the artist says, "It's come to my attention, everyone is calling me a troll. Some say even the king of trolls. Well, first of all, I'm flattered. But I'm done with all of that. I would never do a deal with DoorDash and quite literally deliver beef when millions of people are watching. I mean, who does something like that?" I've always considered it a sort of point of pride that somebody from my city like 50 Cent would have come as far as he did. His evolution from a mere recording artist to a very successful TV producer. Not many people in the industry were able to grow the way that he grew. Perhaps that's because 50 Cent's a real hustler. He's a real thing. And each time, there were a lot of other recording artists presenting themselves as such, but time told a different story. You're really that kind of person of that kind of mindset. You see an opportunity in everything. You're not a one-trick pony. 50 Cent and Mayweather were once seemingly conjoined at the hip as the artist joined the fighter during several ring walks, oftentimes holding the boxer's belts. Outside of fight nights, 50 Cent was frequently seen hanging out with Mayweather, and their relationship was chronicled by HBO's 24/7 series at that time. When Mayweather served a 2-month jail sentence in the summer of 2012 for domestic abuse, 50 Cent announced the formation of TMT Promotions, as the pair planned on promoting fights together, but it never came to be. 50 Cent said at the time that Mayweather didn't financially support the endeavor once he left jail. By November 2012, the duo had a public breakup and divided, and then the jabs. Why didn't Mayweather support it? Why didn't he put any money into it? He was making a lot of money at the time. That was likely under the counsel of Al Heyman, who Floyd had already been working with for many years prior to pairing up with 50 Cent. If you're Al, you don't want anybody crashing that party, because if they do, even if Floyd doesn't realize what you're doing, they will. A few days ago, 50 Cent, laughing at Floyd, said, "I told you to let me read those contracts." Then the jab started. 50 Cent challenged Mayweather to read a full page from a Harry Potter book for $750,000 in charity, and has endlessly piled on the trope ever since, all the way to the Super Bowl commercial this week. Once 50 Cent and Mayweather went their separate ways, the entertainer dabbled as a boxing promoter for the now defunct SMS Promotions, working with fighters like Yuriorkis Gamboa, Andre Durrell, and Billy Dibb, before exiting boxing's business scene. More recently, the artist accompanied Chris Eubank Jr. to the ring, with an electric performance ahead of the Brits' rematch against Conor Benn at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in November. Now, 50 doesn't actually work as a recording artist anymore, even if he briefly lended himself to Chris Eubank Jr.'s ring walk. That likely costed them a pretty penny, because 50 has fully graduated from the hip-hop scene, from just being a recording artist. He hasn't actually released any new music or a new album since 2014, roughly 12 years ago. More than a decade. By now we all know that 50 has graduated and migrated over to film and media production, lending his likeness to commercials. DoorDash felt so inclined to pay him a pretty penny to appear in one of theirs, and he took that as an opportunity to continue to troll Floyd for what he's going through right now, his financial woes. But isn't it wrong to kick Floyd Mayweather when he's down? Is that not a tragedy that a fighter who would have been as successful as a Floyd Mayweather, generating what he generated, has it all stolen, that it's all gone? Having generated what he generated, it would have took a while for karma to come back around for him, because Floyd Mayweather, and I've said this many times, was not an endearing character in the story of boxing. He was not well liked, often misrepresented by the success of his bigger boxing matches. Some people would have you think they were only successful because of Floyd when he had very good dance partners. Those guys had fans too. Guys like Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto, so on and so forth, that if those fights sold well, it wasn't just because of Floyd, it was also because of who he was fighting, because Floyd himself was not well liked. So you're not now seeing an outpouring of sympathy for Floyd's financial dilemma because he was never well liked, and that's the consequence of marketing yourself as a villain when all you cared about was your money. If you don't now have that, you don't now have anything. He was never able to parlay his success inside the boxing ring into a relationship with a major brand. It's another consequence of not being well liked. If most people out there don't like you, then why would a brand want to attach themselves to you? They wouldn't. So they didn't. What I consider a missed opportunity, it was recently published that Naoya Inoue, a goddamn super bantamweight, made $16 million in endorsements. That's not even counting his fight purses. $16 million in commercial sponsorships. Oh, Inoue is a goddamn rock star where he's from, but Inoue did not reach the same level of notoriety that Floyd Mayweather did. Floyd was known the world over, so just imagine if he would have been able to parlay his success in the ring into some brand deals. He would have made more than that. But not being well liked, well, that is the consequence. And lying about your business acumen, for the longest time, there's been a subsect of individuals online who would use Floyd Mayweather as the anchor for all of their arguments. Mayweather's green print. Mayweather's money. Sort of a rebellious figure who made people believe that you can be as disliked as he was and still be successful. That success doesn't seem to have panned out. Not if all his money is gone and his business acumen was a lie. An exaggeration. A character they were selling. As no one with any common sense would have entrusted Al Heyman, friend, father figure, or otherwise, with that much of their own money for that duration of time. But he did, because he's not the business mogul he made himself out to be. So he's making a lot of people look stupid. Because now those people are finding out that he was kind of stupid. And now, they're not so quick to defend him while he's being kicked, while he's down. It's karma, because he did that to a lot of other boxers. He talked about not wanting to end up another broken down boxer. His worst fears may be realized. The money that he's looking for, Stefan Espinoza doesn't have it. Al Heyman doesn't have it. The money's in the wind. I think that money is gone, and I don't think he's going to get anything re-encumbered to him as a result of this lawsuit. While he's drowning in debt, the byproduct of his lavish lifestyle that he can no longer keep up with. This guy might end up having to file Chapter 11. Bankruptcy, because he owes a lot of people a lot of money, and he's not making money at the same rate that he used to. I don't even know that a Saudi bag would be enough to bail him out. He owes so many people so much money, and he's approaching 50. While being trolled by 50, pun intended. You're not going to see an outpouring of sympathy for what was a materialistic, selfish individual who deliberately marketed himself as a villain. He falls on hard times. You're not going to see an outpouring of sympathy for that person, not even from the people that used to support him, because they only supported him when they thought he was a winner. If all this time turns out that he's a loser, they're gonna give him the cold shoulder. He's not an endearing character in the story of boxing, and if he didn't know it before, he is finding that out now. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Canelo says the Dimitri Bivol rivalry is not fully closed. Bivol handed Alvarez his first loss in 8+ years back in 2022, retaining his WBA light heavyweight title by a close but clear decision. They then went their separate ways, Bivol ultimately becoming undisputed light heavyweight champion and Alvarez dropping back down to 168. Alvarez doesn't believe their rivalry is necessarily over. However, no, Alvarez told The Ring's Rick Reno on the Mr. Versace podcast when asked whether the door is closed to another meeting with his conqueror. When might it happen? That's anyone's guess. That's because it won't. I believe the moment is gone for that fight. I would give Dmitry Bivol maybe 1 or 2 more fights at light heavy before he decides to move up to cruiser, because he was recently asked about it, and to my surprise, he actually wants to go up there. Dmitry Bivol is coming off back-to-back fights against another rival, Artur Beterbiev, losing the first one and a chance to become undisputed champion by a split decision, and then winning the rematch, also by majority decision, to realize his ultimate goal. The Russian then had successful back surgery, from which he is still recovering. He expects to face IBF mandatory challenger Michael Eifert sometime in the spring. After that, he could restart negotiations with Beterbiev on a rubber match to turn to Alvarez, or of course, go another direction. Meanwhile, Alvarez is looking to bounce back after a unanimous decision loss to Terence Crawford that costed him his super middleweight titles back in September. He won't face Bivol in his comeback fight, but he sees a rematch as a viable option down the road, saying, why not? We'll see in the future. If it makes sense, why not? I always like challenges, Alvarez said, so why not? Maybe? Maybe not. I feel that if there were going to be a rematch between Dmitry and Canelo, it would have happened by now. That fight between them was 3 years ago. Even though Canelo Alvarez lost, in most situations, he still holds all the cards, to where most, if not every fight he wants to have, he can have. So if that one didn't materialize, I think it's because underneath it all, Canelo knew he doesn't belong at light heavyweight. He's barely a super middle. He doesn't have the frame. Some people try to frame it to where it was just skill that beat Canelo Alvarez, and skill alone, but it really helps that Dmitry Bivol is a bona fide light heavyweight who was a light heavyweight champion at the time already for many years. That in tandem with his style didn't do Canelo any favors. Pendulum step coupled with Dmitry Bivol's natural height and length advantages over the noticeably smaller Canelo Alvarez. You're kidding yourself if you're watching boxing matches and saying size don't matter. Most of the time it does. Maybe not in some rare instances, but most of the time it does, and it mattered in that fight. People try to frame it to where Dmitry was a cherry pick gone wrong. Most people who didn't know a goddamn fucking thing about Dmitry, because if you did, you would have known that's not an easy fight for Canelo. That's what I was saying in the build-up. That's a potential banana skin. I thought that maybe Canelo could beat him on activity, because I didn't think Canelo could hurt him, and I didn't think Canelo could knock him out. But if he's busy in the rounds, maybe he could win that way? I was wrong. They still try to frame it as if Canelo Alvarez was picking a cherry in Dmitry Bivol by moving up to a bigger weight class to face an unbeaten champion who's been a champion for many years, in his prime, unbeaten. That's not a cherry. It's not like Wilder picking Tyson Fury, who was morbidly obese, struggling with cocaine addiction, and battling suicidal thoughts at the time. That's a cherry. Bivol was just a miscalculation, the consequence of being an ambitious fighter. Being ambitious, sometimes things go wrong, but you get up, dust yourself off, get back on the saddle, get back to work. That's what Canelo did. They're not going to fight again. There's not going to be a rematch, and I really don't want to see one, because I think it would go the same or worse than the first fight did. The door is open for a second fight, but I don't expect Canelo to walk through it. I think he now knows he doesn't belong up there.